Welcome back to the Chase MedSearch Podcast. My guest today is RJ Kedziora, the co-founder and COO, CTO of Estenda Solutions, a leader in healthcare and medtech software, AI, ML, and data analytics. With over 30 years of experience, he has built award-winning digital health solutions that improve patient outcomes while navigating the challenges of regulated medical devices and chronic care management. RJ has been recognized with honors such as the HIMSS Davies Award and the Health 2.0 Leadership Award, and has spoken internationally on AI, healthcare tech, and product development. RJ holds an MBA from Westchester University and a BS in computer science from Duquesne University. His upcoming book, Productive Harmony, explores a new approach to leadership and productivity. Welcome to the Chase MedSearch Podcast, RJ.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. In the warm up to the show, you mentioned you were in a triathlon over the weekend. So our listeners in this podcast audience haven't met you yet. Tell us what drives that.
The triathlon is interesting because there is definitely a physical challenge to it, as you can imagine. But what has really driven me to do triathlons for close to 20 years now is the mental aspects of it. And just the challenge of getting up every morning at 4:45 and getting out there and doing the necessary training to compete. I'm proud to be able to say I'm a competitive age group triathlete. I'm not winning any triathlons out there, but I am pretty competitive in my age group. So it makes it fun too to be able to get out there and enjoy the outdoors.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you may not be outright winning it, but I'd say you're winning in the game of life doing those. And you're winning in AI. You are heavily involved and have been involved and on the forefront of many developments in AI as they relate to healthcare. Your company, Estenda Solutions, I love the tagline you had about you're helping companies that have an idea but don't exactly know how to execute on that idea. Tell us more about that with Estenda.
That's what I love about what I get to do every day. We're helping other companies, whether they're startups or in larger enterprises, R&D groups, and even fairly recently, last couple of years, sales and marketing groups, exploring ideas and concepts and not quite sure what they want to do or how to do it. Whether that's from a technology perspective or even a healthcare medicals perspective. And then, does the FDA or other global regulatory bodies come into the picture? And what does that mean for how you're pushing that solution out into the world? So, yeah, I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV, but I get to have lots of fun talking to the MDs and the PhDs out there in the world to figure out how really to improve patient health and wellness. Mm-hmm. All of our projects really focus on what we think of as that front end of healthcare and medtech. Is how do we improve the lives of people out there. We've never really gotten into the billing side of things. Very important, but not a world we've played in.
Yeah. Well, my niche audience here tends to be medical device sales reps, sales managers, clinical support people. There are medical sales VPs that listen in. And when you talk about being on the front end of things in healthcare, changes, advancements, they're the ultimate practitioners in some ways because they are dealing directly with the doctors and surgeons in the C-suite, also in the operating room. And so I wanted to tap into your expertise today for this audience, which may be an audience that you haven't addressed as much in some of your other podcasts, but I know they could benefit from it because it's an extraordinarily competitive career and AI is rapidly affecting them, whether they realize it or not. And I wanted to have a discussion today about how AI can help them do their jobs more effectively, win more competitive business, work smarter, stay ahead. And is that an area that you've dealt with? I'm pretty sure it is. And I wanted to touch on that today.
Yes, it's definitely, it's where AI is starting to make an impact already. Mm-hmm. So yes, we're out there on this very cutting edge of trying to develop new tools and technologies. And even though the AI, the large language models, I'll just generically say ChatGPT, yep. That's the one
I use it all
everybody's most familiar with. has only been out a couple years, but it's already changing so much of what we do in daily life, let alone, work.
I feel like we need an up to the second update on what's happening with AI because it's changing all the time. The development cycle, I think, at one point years ago, used to go from the US to India to somewhere else, and then you get it back in the morning. Now it's just almost instant, it feels like, around the world. What is blowing your mind right now, right this moment, top of mind when I ask you what's going on in AI in healthcare that's just kind of shock and awe right now to you?
Yeah, let me check my watch and see what time it is. What actually happened in the last few minutes? That's part of the challenge of working in AI because it is rapidly changing and capabilities are coming out every day. New companies are developing new products built on top of these solutions. The thing that comes to mind, and it is definitely in the overhyped category today, but if you've heard the term agentic AI, and basically what it's doing is it's building on what ChatGPT is already capable of. So you and I engage with ChatGPT, we're having a conversation. We're talking to it, asking it questions, it's responding with very thoughtful commentary and useful information. But now you take it to that next level and give it a task to go off and do that. Create an appointment for me, change this document, create me a PowerPoint presentation. And that's what that promise of the agentic AI is leading us towards, where you can give it a task and it goes off and executes on it without your invention. It is definitely very early stages, but as an example that sort of blew my mind this weekend, it's probably every weekend that something happens. I got a subscription notification. I get a drink that I enjoy. Every month it sends me a subscription. I don't drink it very often, so I need to skip this month. I just went into I use this browser called Comet from a company called Perplexity that has agentic AI built into it, and I said, "Hey, can you skip my subscription this month for me?" And it did. Like, and it was just like, wow. Now, the flip side of it is it could have taken me like 2 clicks to have done that myself. And it took the AI probably about 4 or 5 minutes to get through and figure out how to do that. But that's today. Where it's going tomorrow and the day after, it's a whole nother situation. And speaking to your audience, think about the same type of capability when you're trying to collect information across multiple websites. It's like, okay, here are my 4 competitors, X, Y, Z. Can you collect their most recent information about their products coming to market? And this agentic technology can go off and look at those individual websites, pull that information, and create a summary document for you. Very powerful.
Very powerful. I had a miniature experience of that the other day. I've got a senior level leadership role I'm running at, and over the weekend or close to the weekend, the client dropped a massive study, just a gigantic study. I think it was 61 sites, 16 countries, all sorts of data, and it was just an absolutely fantastic study, definitive proof on the efficacy of their therapy. And I just knew about it, so I said, "Hey, can you, ChatGPT, can you summarize key findings of this study?" And it did in 2 seconds flat, and it was lengthy, and it had a summary message of, "Hey, this is why this is important. This is why they're winning in this niche," basically. And I gave it to my candidates. I said, "This is something you might want to know about heading into the weekend," and it was just instant. And so, what you're talking about is the even further down the pike than that. I mean, it's a brave new world. Amazing.
Yes, absolutely. And that's a great use case of summarizing the results of the clinical trial. Now, take it to the next level to make it easier to interact with. Google has a system called Notebook LLM. I'm using it more and more. Feed that same document into Notebook LLM, and it'll generate you a podcast about that material. And right now it uses 2 different personalities. So as you're listening to the podcast, it's 2 people interacting, talking about that content. you're sitting in the car, sitting in traffic, going here and there, perfect opportunity to listen to a podcast. And so, yes, instead of having to read that summary now, you can listen to it.
Yeah, that's amazing. People are both excited and scared. The headlines are full of news about young coders that were told, go to school, you've got an instant job when you graduate as a coder. And now the headlines are filled with people that are not being hired because they are coders and AI has replaced that work. Black Mirror, I don't know if you've seen it. It's a Netflix special. I don't recommend it. I saw one episode and it disturbed me so much I can't bring myself to watch any other episodes of it. But it is a very dystopian future that it's painting about AI. It's kind of the new Twilight Zone. And what fears are founded? What fears are unfounded at this point with AI replacing jobs, and maybe particularly from a medical device sales rep standpoint?
I'm very familiar with Black Mirror. I've watched every episode. Yes, some are scarier than others, but it's an interesting world that we're entering into. I've been following sci-fi for decades now, and that's how my degree is in computer science. At one point I thought I was going to get into artificial intelligence. Everybody sort of forgets it's been around for a long time, so that picture is just becoming more of a reality today. But it is, and we are already seeing it, having an impact. So I wouldn't say you need to be scared about it. You do need to be concerned and aware of it and figure out how to start using it to improve yourself. And that's the key to this, is how can you use it to improve your capabilities? So if you're in school now, with whether it's a computer science degree, a marketing degree, even accounting, many professions that are considered historically not going to be impacted by AI are being impacted by AI. If you go back even 10 years, 20 years, when you thought about AI, it was probably more the Terminator model of the robot coming in and taking over. And that's not so much what we're seeing. That's still a little ways in the future. It's really that AI is taking over and helping out, I like to think of helping out with thought-based professions where you really are thinking through things. And so how do we learn to adapt it, to make it a companion or a helper, improve our abilities, augmented intelligence instead of artificial intelligence?
You've been very involved in at least one podcast episode that I listened to about whether or not doctors would be replaced by AI, and if that was even on the verge of becoming reality. And it made me look up sort of what is AI good at that where it may actually be better than what doctors do. And like you said, to your point about helping, AI is better at image recognition in radiology, dermatology, pathology, pattern recognition in big data sets, speed and scale. But for surgeons, it's more of a helper, I sense, than a replacement of those activities. Is that accurate, would you say?
Yes, it's definitely a helper. And there are systems in place and companies developing these to increase that capability of testing or helping the surgeon in the pre-surgery, during surgery, post-surgery, can absolutely facilitate that and be that helper within the surgery. I'm aware of various companies that are using the vision capabilities to understand what's going on during that surgery, to then schedule different things. Okay, we're getting near the end of surgery, so we need pickup, we need transportation, and so the notification can go out. Yes, a human can do that, but let's let the computers and the technology do it. And you referenced a radiologist. So yes, the technology, the AIs can look at these images, and have been proven to be better than the radiologists. They don't get tired. And that's the biggest thing. It's like, yes, radiologists are very capable, but it's not replacing them. There was actually, there has been a lot of talk about, the AI replacing the radiologists, but we're not seeing that because they do other things than just reading those images. And so let them get back to what they love doing and being part of the medical field instead of just sitting in a dark room and reading an image.
Yeah. I surveyed some of my network for this podcast in advance, and I asked medical reps and managers and some VPs what they would like to hear from you about. And so we were covering some of that, but one of them had a really interesting question where he said, I would love to know, does RJ think that at some point we will see AI making triage decisions around patients? Like, this patient has a 12% chance of survival. Either it's worth it or it's not worth it. Do you see that ever becoming a reality where they'll make those decisions versus a doctor or surgeon making those decisions?
I'd love to say no, but I think at some point the computers, the technology, the AI will be making that call. It's not tomorrow, it's not next week, it's not next year. There are lots of decision points to be made around liability. Like, when that happens, who has liability? Hey, the AI said to do this, so I did it. So humans are very much part of that equation and will continue to be part of that equation. But even today, the AI can help provide information into painting that picture of what is happening. Pre-surgery, if you have a difficult case, it can surface information about other similar cases, that are in the literature. It's like, okay, how can we approach this, and how can we do a better job? How can we take less risk during the surgery to not even get to that point? So it can make an impact. Yes, I think the world is changing. In the medical professional in general, I think at some point in the not too near future, it's going to be irresponsible to not use AI as part of the decision-making process. It doesn't get tired. Yes, there's this issue of hallucinations where the AI can make up stuff, has a tendency to do that. So you absolutely have to be aware of this, and you have to double check everything it does. Think of it as that intelligent intern, first-year medical resident. It knows a lot. It can pass those medical residence exams and flying colors. But yeah, every now and then it's going to say something very strange. So double check it. There was an instance recently, one of the Google medically trained specific AIs in reading imagery, it was stated in the media as it made up a new medical part. And it said basilar instead of basal, in its analysis, and everyone was like, oh my gosh. But humans make those mistakes too, which I find fascinating. So we do sort of look at the AI and put it against a different sort of level, threshold, or measurement system. But that's, when you ask that question of like, is it going to make those triage decisions? We're a long way off from that.
What do you think is coming down the pike that medical reps ought to be anticipating, if we're just to be a little futuristic here, which I guess we've been this whole podcast, but what do you think is coming that maybe people aren't as aware of right now that you can just see, given your work, your consulting work with the companies and healthcare companies you work with? What's coming that we don't know around the corner that's going to affect reps' business?
I think of it as that augmentation. How can this AI really help you in what you're doing as part of your profession, as you're having conversations? It can provide feedback. So we use the example of just saying, here's my 4 competitors, go out and get me information on that. Here's who I'm meeting, please analyze their LinkedIn profiles to get a better feel for that person, that individual. Let's look at their research that they've put out there. As you get into more specific things, as we talk about ChatGPT, it only has so much information that's available out there in the world. But if you work for a particular medical company, then you can start incorporating your own literature into that, your own competitive information into your closed system, such that you're not sharing it with ChatGPT and sharing it with the rest of the world. You do want to protect that information that's proprietary and adds value to what you're offering in the world. But it can use that information and help surface that. And even think, as we are talking here virtually, if you're having that virtual encounter with a surgeon or someone in the buying chain, the purchasing chain, You could have ChatGPT on the side
Mm-hmm.
commentating and listening to this and providing advice. We're seeing it in just the world of interviewing when we interview
Mm-hmm.
candidates. We're seeing it on both sides of the equation, and we did interview a candidate the other day and asked them to share their screen, and it popped up that they were screen sharing with somebody else. It was like, wait a minute, who's this other person?
Yeah.
And they dropped off. That was a little scary, that Black
Yeah.
Mirror-esque moment
Mm-hmm.
of like, okay, they getting coaching in the background kind of thing.
Wow.
So yeah, you do have to be aware of these, but you can see from my perspective as interviewing this candidate, it can listen to that call and provide feedback as to the candidate's capabilities to fill the position, but also my own performance. How can I do better during that interview process? So you translate that into the sales process. I do business development as well. So I haven't gotten there from a business development perspective. The interviewing is a natural point where it's like, okay, is it okay to record this meeting kind of thing? Less so probably in the biz dev world these days. I haven't quite gotten there yet. But yeah, it's a powerful moment to take that technology and get feedback.
Yeah. I want to think about maybe the rep that has just shut down and said, I'm not adapting, or I haven't adapted. I hear about all this stuff, but I've got my job to do, and I'll deal with it when I can. But they're coming to the realization that they really need to get on this. And the rest of the questions, maybe for our time together, I kind of want to frame through the use of a tool that you'd recommend. Where do they start? Do they start with ChatGPT? Do they start with the Google product? What would be your sort of advice to get going on this? And then we're going to talk about the
Yeah.
competitive advantages that it can help with reps. But
Absolutely. I think an easy entry is that Notebook LLM.
okay.
It's easy to use, easy to drop something in and realize value very quickly.
And that's a Google
The
product.
next,
Let's
I
clarify.
would,
Is Notebook LLM a Google product?
yes,
Okay.
Notebook LLM is a Google product, yes. That's a good entry point to realize value really quickly. It will generate that podcast for you. You can ask questions and actually even interrupt the podcast and ask questions, which is crazy to have a conversation with a virtual podcast, and gives you feedback, which is great. Then I would definitely engage with ChatGPT or any of the other ones that are available out there. The interesting part for someone that may not be interested in this today, or just be like, it's another technology that I have to learn, is, if you picked up a calculator today or an iPhone today, where do you even start? It's, you need somebody else to come in and be like, okay, how do I use this calculator? How do I use an iPhone or this new app? The beautiful part of ChatGPT is that you can have a conversation with it and ask it that question. So now you are one-on-one. You don't have to worry about what anybody else is thinking you're doing or having a conversation with a human. You can talk to the AI and literally ask it, what do I need to know about you? Here is my profession. Here is the product I'm selling. Here are my challenges.
Yep.
How do I use you? And it will tell you. It will help you understand how to use it, which is a beautiful and amazing thing.
I have advised people, including my own family members, that just start with chat and tell it a lot about yourself, and it will guide and prepare responses for you based on that, and it does. And I had someone text me right after I did that and said, my gosh, this has solved like 25 problems for me in the last 30 minutes. I can't get off it. It just goes from there. AI can help reps in lots of ways. We touched on them. It can help them figure out which surgeons, hospitals, ASCs are the highest priority in their territory. Talk to me about how it could help reps figure out how to communicate with surgeons, and other customers based on style or sentiments of those folks. How does that work?
That is one of those, again, I probably use the word amazing too many times as I talk about AI with various people, but if you're not impressed with AI, when you go in there and you do start having that conversation, ask it to respond like Bill Gates. Ask it to respond like Bill Clinton or Bill Murray, to see that power and the capability of how it responds based on those different personas. So when you're thinking about, okay, I need to interact with this surgeon, this individual, tell it that. The more context, the more information you can give it about how you are interacting with and what you're trying to accomplish, the better it will be at giving you feedback. I usually start prompts, and prompts is just is a terminology for talking to it and writing it out, so you're prompting it. And I usually started with like, act like a, and then ask my question. So act like a surgeon,
A neurosurgeon in my
brain
world.
surgeon,
Yeah.
a neurosurgeon, cardiovascular, like, and that will have it change how it responds to you. You can tell it to act like someone that's not interested in my product, or someone that's enthusiastic about it, and it's going to change its responses. If you have already started communicating with this, individual kind of thing, you can feed your emails into it and say, okay, and ask it percentage-wise. What are the buying signals that you detect in this message, or what are the challenges this person is putting out there that I need to change their opinion on. You use the word sentiment. It's very good at sentiment analysis. And just ask it, rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. What do you think? Yeah. And it'll give you feedback along those lines, and can help craft a reply to help overcome those challenges. So it's again a powerful moment to be able to just change how you interact with everything and improve your capabilities.
And something I thought that was interesting as I did research for this podcast was you can role play with it too. You can talk to it and it will listen and give you feedback on your pitch. That was kind of mind blowing. I hadn't really considered that. So there's so much effort and work that's gone on, for decades now about selling styles. There's DISC, there's spin selling, there's integrity selling. There's all these things that are trying to help reps in the moment form these kinds of responses and approaches to doctors and physicians. And now with ChatGPT or Google AI or wherever, you have an acceleration of that because you can profile them that much more effectively, and you can test it in kind of a non-live environment. It's so cool.
It is, and a key to that too, in terms of providing the context to ChatGPT when you're talking to it, tell it. So as our company practices this particular sales model, here's my style, and it can then focus and target feedback specific to that methodology for you.
It's fantastic. Other things, how could it help in a surgical case? That was something that was a new thought to me too, was you could get in trouble, and you do sometimes in surgeries where there's troubleshooting that goes on. Are they doing that now?
I think of it as along the continuum. So even before you get into the operating room, doing chart review, doing medical imaging review, as you come up with a game plan for, the surgery, and you're talking to the team, have AI participate in that conversation to provide feedback. As you get into more advanced systems that are medically trained, so ChatGPT is not medically trained, but it does have a lot of information about medicine, about surgery. So you can ask it stuff and it'll come back with an answer. But there are specific systems out there, large language models, that you can go to the Microsofts, the Googles, the OpenAIs. They have them, So I would definitely, if your institution has access to those models, take advantage of them for more targeted, better feedback. But prior to surgery, it can help you significantly there. Within the surgery, during the surgery itself, there are various tools and technologies that you can take advantage of, particularly with the vision capability. So I think in two aspects. One, vision, where it just has a camera and it's looking over the surgery and is aware of what's happening, that it could provide feedback or coordinating other resources. I've heard of systems in anesthesiology. They're looking at the equipment. They're not integrated with the equipment, But as you as a human are sitting there observing, the readouts of various different instrumentation, the AI can do that as well. So you didn't have to integrate anything, which takes time, adds complexity. You have to get different departments involved. Does it work today? It's just now looking at the same thing, you as a human, and helping provide that oversight during surgery. And likewise then, augmented reality. More and more companies are coming up with these systems where you wear a pair of glasses, and it basically has a heads-up display where it's overlaying information. So now I can see and look at what you're looking at and provide pointers and information about what you're seeing. So lots of capabilities prior to surgery, during surgery, and then after as well from a documentation perspective. Here's what happened. Here's what we saw. So instead of that proverbial pajama time after you go home and having to write up all your notes, it's like the AI was there in the room with you, observing, listening to the conversations, seeing what happened. It can generate the notes for you to review. You still absolutely have to review them. But yeah, powerful moments throughout the continuum.
Speaking of pajama time, I think of how much help it can give to reps who have to feed information to CRM systems. All the time they spend forecasting, right? And, there's ways to automate that now, or at least to get it to a point where it goes so much faster and you have more time with your family. Because that's honestly a huge complaint I hear all the time from reps is like, I hate admin work. I hate it. And I work all day and I come home, I got to work another couple hours feeding all this information, and it can speed it up for them, right?
Absolutely. If you're doing calls virtually, it's pretty easy to Zoom, Teams, all these technologies have automated note-taking capabilities. Tie right into your CRM, and now it's providing the summarization, the action items, the to-do lists that you need to do to follow up, and they're there for you. There are a growing number of third-party technologies, I'll call them, essentially an AI-powered microphone that can listen to a conversation and do the same type of thing out there. You do get into sort of privacy and recording rights and making sure that the people you're in a meeting with are aware of that you have this technology and you're recording the meeting. You do want to be open and transparent. We're all used to it during a Zoom call, but if you're there in person, you do want to make them aware that you're using this. But it's the same thing. It's recording the conversation. It can do that sentiment analysis, can integrate with your CRM, and go enjoy your family time.
And I think to the listener out there that's just kind of dipping their toe into the shallow end of the pool with this, if you think something's possible, it probably is. So one thing I've found value in is just asking it, can you do this? Or is there any way to do this? I know this sounds impossible. Can you do it? And then it's like, you can do all of that. Oh, and you should do this and this and this too. So asking it questions about what capabilities other things may have is a good idea too, because you just don't know what's out there. I mean, there's so much out there now. One of my clients yesterday, when I was asking him about this podcast coming up, he said, I went to my primary care physician and they gave me all the notes. They were a little sparse on their information back to me, so I just fed it into I don't know that I recommend this, but he fed it into one of those AI tools, and it gave him a whole plan of things. Like, this is what you should pay attention to, and this is what you should now do subsequently. And he goes, it was way more detailed than my doctor, and it was streamlined. It was somehow detailed and streamlined, and now I know what I'm going to do as a result of this doctor visit. And I didn't get any of that from my primary care.
Absolutely. And this is one of the criticisms that you hear about AI, which just is not true. It's sort of a myth of the AI world, that it's not empathetic. AI, time and time again, has been demonstrated to be more empathetic than the average, medical professional. It doesn't get tired. It has infinite time, but it doesn't take infinite time. It's really fast at generating those notes, those feedback. It has patience. So you take that, you, God forbid you get diagnosed with cancer, your brain's shutting down at that point in time. You're not hearing anything. You go home and work with the ChatGPT systems to get more information, to then go back to your physician, your healthcare providers, that surgeon, to have an informed conversation. And if you don't understand it, again, hey, ChatGPT, explain it to me like I'm 5 years old, and it will. My a sibling that's at MIT studying quantum physics, I couldn't even begin to explain what she's doing. But it's like, hey, explain this to me like a 5-year-old. It's like, and it'll come up with those analogies and think to help explain such that I can understand it. And then once you get beyond that, as you start get comfortable, you're like, explain it to me like I'm in college, or a PhD student, or like a surgeon. To really understand and use from that sales perspective. It's like you want to use the right terminology.
Sure.
So you don't want to go to a sales call speaking like a 5-year-old. Hey, what is the right terminology to use? It can absolutely help.
To your point about empathy, another thing that popped up in my research was AI reps can use AI to coach them at the end of the day and at the end of the week on how they did that day with their territory planning and execution and things like that. Have you seen that applied? I don't know that anybody would admit that they use AI to coach them on sales calls and stuff like that, but it was a very intriguing notion because a lot of reps don't get coaching every day from their manager. They don't talk to their manager. Sometimes they don't talk to them for a week or two. So
It's absolutely true, and the manager's not there during each and every call. And how are you performing? So there is a lot as various different organizations do the surveys of AI use. You do see a lot of people using it privately and being afraid to admit the use of it, partially for fear of, okay, is this going to replace me down the road? It's not going to replace anybody anytime soon. I'm not the first person to say it, but the person using AI is going to replace you because they're going to get better. They're going to be more efficient. They're going to close more sales because they've taken advantage of the capabilities of the technology. Those are the people that you have to be, looking out for, the ones using the AI.
yeah, that might be the best place to close this little conversation we've been having, because I think that is kind of the overall point. That's the takeaway. It's not the future. AI is not the future. It's already here. And the reps who start experimenting right now today, which you can do, are going to have an edge over those who wait. So, take RJ's advice. Pick one tool today, add it to your workflow, try it. The faster you learn, the faster you're going to separate yourself from the pack. And there's so much more that you can do with it. And I don't think any of us are even hitting probably a fraction of what it can do for us to improve our lives, our workflow, our efficiency, our results. So, RJ, thank you for being on today. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you for having me. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Looking forward to the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for listening to the Chase MedSearch Podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Be sure to visit our website at chasemedsearch.com and drop a resume. That way you never miss a job opportunity. And please subscribe to our YouTube platform, even if you like to consume the content in other ways. It really helps our algorithm, and we'd love to see you.